In just 3 days, the world will flock to theaters for the premiere of the Michael biopic. But while the Hollywood machine celebrates a legend, one person is notably absent from the credits: his sister, Janet. For years, the industry tried to paint their distance as a rift, but the truth is far more calculated. While Michael was fighting his own battles, Janet was being systematically erased by the most powerful man in television. Les Moonves didn't just want Janet sidelined after the Super Bowl, he wanted her career finished. When she managed to land a #1 book deal years later, Moonves famously demanded to know, how the F did she slip through? Now, the movie will be out in a couple days, but Janet, Paris, and LaToya, they still don't support it. And that's because they don't trust John Branca, the executor over Michael's estate. They feel like the movie is filled with propaganda and lies to make John Branca look like a hero, but in all reality, he wasn't even around for the second trial. And even though they edited some scenes in the movie, Janet's still not impressed. She still is against this movie being released. And a lot of people don't understand just how deep her convictions go. She made a vow with herself never to let anyone smear his name, not even in death. And the world knows that she always says that she was closest to Michael out of all of her siblings.
Her home is filled with memories. This photo was taken at a family gathering the last time she saw her brother.
It must be very special.
Very.
To have that photograph. Who were you closest to when you were growing up?
Mike. Yeah, we were incredibly close.
When was the last time you had seen him?
2 days before my birthday.
And what was that like?
Fun.
She absolutely looked heartbroken during that interview. Now let's talk about how deep her connection to Michael goes and how she will never give up on him or take on a fight when she feels that his legacy is being stepped on. Now we all know about Michael's allegations, but we didn't know that Janet Jackson was systematically being pushed out of Hollywood by the president of CBS. His name is Les Moonves, but many people just call him Les. He was a known racist that didn't want black people to succeed in Hollywood, and he had a deep-seated hatred for Janet Jackson, which is kind of weird because everyone thinks that Janet is soft-spoken and really kind of meek, but he didn't see it that way. He looked at her as an uppity N-word that had too much power. And when I say he didn't want any African American to succeed, I meant no one. There were no black executives on his staff, and this is just a known thing in the African American community. It got so bad that an ex-employee named Whitney Davis wrote an open letter to the public just explaining what went on under his reign. She accused CBS, aka Les Moonves. She said him himself would constantly block efforts to retain black talent, consistently blocking black people from being hired there. There were absolutely no promotions of black journalists and executives. She also said that one time someone used the N-word in front of her, and when she tried to complain about it, she was told to get over it and grow thicker skin. And although he had a huge disdain for Janet Jackson, he wasn't even part of the music business. He was over television. Now, before I get into the details of what he did to Janet Jackson, you guys have to absolutely understand he was a bad person. Eventually, he would get fired from the company himself, but that was way after he took down Janet Jackson.
The chairman and chief executive of CBS, Les Moonves, is stepping down. As Amna Nawaz reports, his departure marks a dramatic downfall for one of the television industry's most powerful men.
The 68-year-old Moonves has been at CBS since 1995 and chairman and CEO since 2003. The accusations against him cover a 20-year span from the 1980s to the 2000s, after a New Yorker report earlier this summer featuring accusations made against him by 6 separate women. The New Yorker published a second report this weekend with 6 new allegations of misconduct or assault by Moonves. Within hours of the story's publication, the company announced his departure. The reporter behind both of those reports, Ronan Farrow, joins me now. Welcome back to the NewsHour, Ronan. I want to begin by asking you about those dozen women across both reports. Give me a sense of what stood out to you about their stories and consistencies you saw across what they told you.
Well, Amna, often in a body of reporting like this, there is a point at which you realize there are too many stories with too many similarities in the fact pattern for it to be coincidental. These were not women that were in touch with each other, there was no coordination, and yet they were producing uncannily similar details about alleged misbehavior by Les Moonves.
Now, according to these 12 women, he was actually R-ing them. And if you didn't let him do it, well, your career was over. Now, let's talk about Janet's scandal, Nipplegate. According to the rumors, when Les found out about this, he bounced on the situation. He had already been hating her for years, and this was his way of getting her out of the music business. And when I say he wanted her completely out, he wanted to bring her all the way down. And exposing your breasts on national television was just the vehicle he needed. Now, to be quite honest, I really didn't see what happened. And I was supposedly watching it in great detail. At least I thought I was. I didn't even see it. And a normal person probably would have thought, so what? Especially because just a couple weeks before that, we saw Madonna, Britney Spears, and Christina Aguilera full-on tonguing each other on stage. However, according to the rumors, this was just the vehicle he needed to bring Janet down. They said that he personally called around to all the radio stations and had her records pulled. He didn't even have a secretary do it. He did it himself. They said that her songs were immediately pulled from the rotation at the radio stations. All of them. Then he got MTV and VH1 to stop playing her videos entirely. That meant from all of her #1 albums, because up until that point, all of her albums had been #1. Except for the first two, I believe she recorded at the age of 15. Those two albums were called Janet Jackson, made in 82, and Dream Street, made in 84. Dream Street? He pulled Dream Street. Let me tell you, nobody was looking for that video. But just in case you were, he made sure you would never see that video again in life. Now, all of this went down during Michael's second allegations. And what people don't know is during these times, both Michael and Janet supported each other. Despite the rumors going around saying that Janet was too embarrassed to be around Michael, that just wasn't true at all. However, she wanted to handle her scandal in private. Simply put, she just didn't want the public to know. Her strategy, carry on in silence and work harder. She didn't want anyone to bring it up, and she didn't bring it up. She did not want to give Les the satisfaction of knowing that he really ended her career, or so she thought at that time. Now, as far as her fans are concerned, right away they detected something was wrong. To them, it felt like it was a publicity stunt gone terribly wrong, and they felt like Justin just left Janet hanging. They noticed that Janet was being pulled down and dragged in the press, but Justin, however, suddenly he had a new burst of accolades. Meaning Justin knew exactly what was going on. He knew that Janet was a victim of racism and really didn't do anything wrong. And he would go on to feel very guilty about taking Les' side, but that was 14 years later. He wrote, "I am deeply sorry for the times in my life where my actions contributed to the problem, where I spoke out of turn or did not speak up for what was right. I specifically want to apologize to Britney Spears and Janet Jackson, both individually, because I care for and respect these women, and I know I failed. The industry is flawed. It sets men, especially white men, up for success. As a man in a privileged position, I have to be vocal about this. Because of my ignorance, I didn't recognize it for all that it was worth while it was happening in my own life, but I do not want to ever benefit from others being pulled down again." So the fans weren't too far off in their feelings. They just felt that he threw Janet under the bus, and he may be sorry for it 14 years later, but that night he went along with Les's diabolical plan. Now, according to the rumors, Janet found out immediately what was happening to her. She knew she was being blacklisted by a very racist man that couldn't stand her. The catch in all of this is Justin apparently knew also. Eventually, she would go on to say that she didn't want Justin dragged into this mess because he wasn't their target. She was. So she told him, don't speak about it and try not to get yourself involved. She didn't mean join the enemy's side, which is eventually what he did.
Like after that incident happened, did you hear from Justin?
Mm-hmm.
What did you say?
We talked once, and he said, I don't know if I should come out and make a statement and this and that, or say something, have something to say. And I said, listen, I don't want any drama for you. They're aiming all of this at me. So I said, if I were you, I wouldn't say anything.
When that incident happened, because I remember, I was in court with Mike,
yeah.
Santa Maria. And keep in mind, your brother was on trial, they thought that he was a pedophile. So it was a really difficult time on our family, just dealing with that.
Yeah, it was really tough.
Today, Congress holds hearings that consider raising the penalty for indecency on the airwaves.
Not only was it outrageous and offending to children, it is enormously degrading to women.
The Capitol, really? He got a group of people to go to the Capitol to complain to our legislators as if this was the worst thing that could ever happen. Now, this is what you call selective rage, or a better phrase, bait and switch. The bait is there's a problem going on behind the scenes, but you can't let anyone know what your true motives are, so you just throw out there some cockamamie excuse. And this was his excuse, that he was upset with Janet because she never apologized for what she did. And this is why the public shouldn't be so quick to judge during any situations, but especially a situation where you don't know the full story. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, you could always find some weak-minded schmuck to support your cause, especially when you are in television. And this is what he did. He had people saying, I can't believe that she's doing this. She is destroying the children of the world. She has no morals. She's so loose. But really, in reality, what you're doing is supporting a bad man that wanted to get rid of someone's career for his own personal racist and male chauvinist reasons. I mean, really, Janet didn't do anything to deserve that. And yes, while all this was going on, she did have the support of her family, but the biggest support was Michael, because he was going through the same exact thing. She chose to be silent about hers. I don't think he could have been silent about his. He was forced to be open and on camera about the situation every single day. And I'm sure it was a real comfort knowing that they were each other's support systems, to the point it feels like they made some kind of secret pact with each other, as in, I will protect you for the rest of my life, and vice versa. And it was also reported that he didn't want her to make any money, not just in the music business, that included acting and book publishing. Yeah, you heard me correctly. He didn't even want her to write a biography. Because book publishing, books can be saved for the upcoming generation. So when he found out that she was getting a book published called True Beauty, and this was years later, and it's being reported when he found out, he screamed to the top of his lungs, how the F did she get through? And my response to that is, she got through because you're not God. And if it's meant for her to be a blessing in today's society, then that's what's going to happen. I mean, these weirdo men, they really think they have real power to control everything, and they throw God out the window. Now, as a side note, I thought this was interesting, so I just want to throw this in. When the truth started coming to light that he was an alleged artist, everyone turned their back on him, except for one person, his wife, Julie Chen. Yes, I'm talking about Big Brother Julie Chen. And this is very strange because her, of all people, should know what type of man that he is. These two had an affair. He was married at the time that they met. They had an affair. Destroyed his ex-wife. I'll make another video about that. I mean, she was absolutely crushed. And at that time, she was with the TV show called The Talk. Okay, it was a very popular talk show. They ended up firing her because her verbal support of Les. And she was loud and proud about it. They didn't want to be associated with that. I mean, there are victims involved here. She really did make herself look foolish.
A lot of people give you a lot of credit for your faith and for your faithfulness to your husband. But did you ever ask him if these allegations are true? That's not what we're here to talk about. But of course, yeah. I know my husband. You know, I know my husband. You also said in the book that one of the hardest parts of your family crisis was having to tell your son. Yeah. I mean, there was some pretty graphic accounts. What did you tell him?
I told him there were reports that were false about our family, and that I kept it simple. I said, so if you ever hear anything or you read anything, you come to us first. You know this family, you know who we are, and don't let anyone shake that.
There are two words that are not in the book, and that is Me Too. Your husband left CBS at the height of the Me Too movement. What do you think of the movement and this idea of believe her?
Well, I think that's getting off track. I think we all go through hard times in this world, in our life, and mine are not over just because I found Christ. I think we need to keep our focus on Him.
Now, Janet's fans still remained loyal through this entire mess. Yeah, she may have never had another #1 album, but she had the loyalty of the people, and it was large. And that was very important to her and Michael. Both of them were huge believers in as long as you treat people right, they'll treat you right. And this is why she's so upset about what's going down with these executors over Michael's estate. She has a feeling that they're stealing money. She has a feeling that they're trying to manipulate his image. Not only that, it's as if they're trying to rewrite history. But the biggest thing is she knows for a fact, because her brother told her, he never wanted to sell his publishing. And he really didn't want to sell it back to Sony after what Tommy Mottola and John Branca put him through. And I talked all about it in my previous video. If you missed that, go back and check it out. And even though Jermaine is basically telling her, listen, this is a good move for my pocket. This is a good way I can make money for my family. But Janet didn't budge. She's going to protect her brother and his legacy and his vision till the end. Now, for myself personally, that's loyalty. That's love. That's true love. So she continues to have the lawsuit in place. This lawsuit is going to be very interesting, and she also continues to not support the movie. She even had them remove her name from the credits. Now, here's another irony in this story. The actual movie itself, titled Michael, they're saying is spectacular. They said that Jaafar did an amazing job, and Janet came out and supported Jaafar. They're saying that he's an amazing singer, dancer, and actor. So I think she's thinking, I will support my nephew, but not the movie. Listen, the Jacksons got a lot going on, people. A lot going on. Let's see what happens next. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts down in the comments sections. Do you think Janet handled the situation with grace by being silent? Plus your thoughts on Les Moonves and the entire situation as a whole. Until next time, bye for now.
Selling out souls, yeah, I care about mine. I've got to get stronger, and I won't give up the fight.